Hello everyone and welcome to Optimal Training Group. First and foremost, since this is my first video in a while, now that I'm trying to get back to putting out more videos. Usually I create videos using Vue in SharePoint or React in SharePoint, and I haven't done that in a while. And it's because I've been working with Power Apps and Power Automate on my current project. I've been on this project for about a year or so, and I just haven't had time to really get into development. So I've just decided to create Power Apps videos or Power Automate videos. So welcome, and it's not to say that I'm not going to create React videos or Vue videos. I will. I just came up with this idea that Power App videos that I create, I can also still convert those to React. Just to keep my skills or your skills up to date as far as development wise. So anyway, enough of that. Today, what I'm going to be doing is this is really basic. So if you're already a guru in Power Apps, no need to watch this video. Really, this is for the class that I teach. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be talking about how do you customize a SharePoint form, from a SharePoint list. So I have this sales list here, and these are the different fields. So I want to talk a little bit about Power Apps, customization and all of that. So if you all remember in the previous versions of SharePoint, you could use InfoPath to create forms, and in those forms it has functionality, because you couldn't just create the functionality that you wanted in just a regular list. So, Power Apps is taking over InfoPath. If you have Power Apps, there's no need to use InfoPath. Please get rid of it. It's not being supported anymore. So, as an example, if I click on New here for this form, it gives me this form, and it's a nice looking form, better than before. But I would like to add some functionality to this form. You see, as I click on things, nothing really happens. So I would like to, let's say I clicked on yes, maybe something disappears, or maybe I want to change the color of this form and add a little bit of flair and functionality and maybe some images. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you need to do is you can customize this form two different ways. One is if you go to integrate, you click on Power Apps, and right down here, customize form. That's one way. Or if you click on new, and you click on this selection here, you have this customize with Power Apps option, which I'm going to click on. So let's click on that, customize with Power Apps. And if you give it a second here, it's thinking, and it's going to take us into our Power Apps environment as soon as it stops loading. Okay, so now we are in Power Apps. I'm just going to skip this, and as you can see, this is the Power Apps environment. I have this link up here that says back to SharePoint, so I can go back to SharePoint. You see this SharePoint integration here, meaning that this is connected to SharePoint. You can see that at the top it has file. It has, when you go to file, you have all the versions of this app. You can see it here. We have the insert tab where you can insert other screens as well. You can insert a label, which you just inserted a label for me, but I don't want that. Let me delete that. So you have all of these different things that you can add to your form. You have views, your data sources, your media collections, and we're going to go over this video by video. So let me go back. So what I want to do is, right here on the left hand side, we have this tree view. And in this tree view, we have this element here, this component here called form screen. And if you click on it, it's basically this here, this whole form. Let me click on form screen. And as you can see, when I click on form screen, it's basically selecting this. If I click on this SharePoint form, it selects the whole SharePoint form. This form screen, you can control the form screen with all of these different elements. So even if I come in here and I select, blue, you see it does that. So I don't want blue, you know. So let's talk about that for a second. So every element in your form, so these here, the card, if you click on the title, if you click on the single line of text box, all of these different elements, the toggle, all of them have their own properties. So if you look here, properties, also in the advanced as well, these are properties that you can get to, and you can also get to these properties here. And these properties allows you to configure your form. It allows you to customize it, change the color, or however you want to do it. So let's say for example I click on this title here and I want to change the text to Arial, and then I want to increase the bold. I want to change it to bold and then increase the size. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna say 15, and as you can see the size increases. And let's say I want to, for the form itself, I want to change the color of this to something different. So these are all the different things. So if I come over here to my fill is sort of the background color. You can change this color. So if I come in here and I type in, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5. Oops, excuse me. Fill. What I'm trying to do is so you can get the RG. If you look up RGBA colors, I'm probably color picker. So if I do this, so it's two. Okay, so if you play around with these numbers, 255 and all that. So if I come, let me go back to my field. So I'm on my form field, and I can say RGBA. So RGBA, and I can say 255, 255, 0, and then 1. And as you can see, it gives me a yellow. If I change these colors again, 125, see, it gives me green. Now this last number here, it allows you to control the transparency. So if I say 0.5, 0.2, you see how it becomes lighter. 0.1, it just changes the lightness of it. So let me say 245. Okay, let's go with that for now. Let me add one more thing here. 154. Okay, so that's that's that. So now, functionality wise, let's say not. Well, let me not do functionality just yet. I want to. Let me move this down, because what I want to do now is I want to add a label. So let's say I add a label up here. I want this label to expand my form. And I can write in here, this is the property. One of the properties of this label is text, and as you can see, it says text. So let's say I say this is let's call it sales form, right? And then I can come down here, I can go to the properties of that label when I select it. As you can see, the label here is also exists under this form, so it's called label 2. I can go back to my properties, I can center it, I can increase this to a higher number, to say 25 or 35. I can make it more bold, let's say semi-bold. I can change the color of the text. Now mind you, all of these things also, like I mentioned before, all of these different colors exist, properties also exist over here. So if I come over here to the color, this is the color. So this is basically the color of this text. So and let me go ahead and add something. 1, 2, 5. You see it changes. So the properties that are in this drop down over here also exist over here. And the way to change these properties is to use this function here, this function box here, and then you can change your properties of it. So now let's do something else. Now, let's go to now. Let me click on the form again. Let me go to advanced. Okay. So as you can see, when I click on this form, this SharePoint form here, it one of the properties is this data source, and the data source is sales. And if you remember, the name of my list is called sales. So the beautiful thing about Power Apps is you can connect to any kind of data source. But since we came from SharePoint, let me go back over here. This is the list we're connected to. So I'm going to click on this fields, edit fields, and in this edit fields, it shows you the current fields of your form. Now I can come in here. I don't need the attachment. You can add and remove elements, fields from the form. So if I click on this here, I can say remove. You can also move things up and down. So let's say for this here, I can move this selection. So move up, move up. And I want to move this, add a comment above this comment box. So I can come down and I can say move up. What's going on? Oh, there you go. It moved up. Okay, so yeah. So I have my title. I have my sales number. Oh, I want to move this down one more. Excuse me. So let me click that. Do edit. Move down. Okay. So anything. So you can basically customize this. You can move things up and down. This is giving me a delegation warning. We'll get to that later. Delegation basically means that when you deal with items that are more than 500, it gives you this warning here. Just keeping you in mind here. But we'll get to that's in another video. We'll talk about how to deal with that. So now let's get to the functionality of the form. Now everything in life, whether it's a human being, a computer, a laptop, everything has properties. We may not call it properties for humans, but everything has properties. So for example, a human being, they may be 5'6", they have a height, they have a weight, those are properties. They have hair color, they have where they're from. Those are all properties like I've described here. So every element on this page has properties. Now it also has what you call a function. So every human being can, well, almost some can walk, can sit, can drink, can blink, can jump, can play. In Power Apps, you can also add functionality as well. So for example, for this element here, if I click on it, you see it has some of the on change, on check, on select, on check. So basically these do something. So if a user changes this, something else can happen, So those are functions, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we're going to do now is when this is selected, this can show and hide. So we're going to show and hide these elements here based on a selection of the toggle button. So let's do that. Let me increase this a little bit so you can see. Okay, I hope that's better for y'all. Okay, so now if you click on this, you see it gives you a card. Select action card. What we really want though is this selection here. So if I click on this, and what I'm going to do is, I'm going to change this name. let's call it selection toggle 1, since I have two toggles on my form. And let's go to this other one here. Let's do it again. You can rename it here, or you can also rename it here as well. So let me say selection toggle 1. So it changed. So it changed here, and as you can see, it changed here as well. So let me come here down to this, and let's say this, call this comment toggle. All right. So it's important to name, when you create as you're creating your form and adding elements to your form or from a SharePoint list, when you customize it, it's important to rename some of these so it can make sense. If you look over here on the left hand side, you have all of these different things, but you don't really know. Sometimes you won't be able to know what it belongs to, even though it does have in the card sales numbers. But it's good to give everything a good name. So now what I want to happen is when this is selected, when this is turned on, this will appear. So what I want to do first is I want to turn this visible. I want to make this element disappear. I don't want it to be visible, basically. So I can either come here and click that, or I can come here, go down to visible, and turn this to false. Does that make sense? Okay. And now that it's gone, in order for me to find it, I just have to kind of, and this is why it's important to name, to name it. So true. Okay, so I want to let it. I'm going to let it be visible first. So what I'm going to do is, one way to be able to view sort of like a live version of your form, which is just for you, is right up here in the top hand side is just to preview the app. So if you click on this button preview, you see here is the form, right? So let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here. Let's get the name of this first. So if you remember, we named it selection toggle 1. So we're going to come to this card, select it, and then in the visible, what we're going to do is we're going to use a if. We're going to create a formula. So we're going to say if selection toggle 1 dot value is equal to true, meaning that it's been turned on, then make it visible, and if it's not turned on, make it false. So let's see how this works, and I'll come back and explain it. So let's go to our preview. So as you can see, when I click on the selection, this appears. When I click it again, it disappears. So let me explain to you what's going on. Okay, so we can show. Okay, so let me select this. So this property, this element, this card has a property called visible. And the visible can only be true. See, it's true, that's why it's showing. Or it can be false. See, it's gone. So let me turn it back to true again. Okay. So this can only be true or false. So we want to put a formula in here, and that formula is going to test whether this is true or false. So when you click on it and it's blue, that means it's been selected. It's true. You know, with the button on the right hand side, that means that it's true. On the left hand side, if it was here, that means that it's false. So that means it's turned off. Turn on, off. So what we do is the formula that we're going to use, let me paste it back in there. This is called a if statement. So I can say if the selection, the value of this toggle, if it is true, then we're going to make it true. We're going to make this appear. We're going to make this visible. It needs to be true. And if it's toggled the other direction, that means that it is false. We don't want it to show. So let's click on that again. So right now this is off, false. When I click on it, it becomes true. So since this is selected and is true, this is going to be true as well. We're going to make this visible. And if it's false, when it turns black, it's false, then the visible property of that box is also false, and it makes it not show. So that is the show and hide. Let's do the same thing to this as well. Let's come here, let's select the comment. So it's called comment toggle. And so we're going to come here to this element, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the visible property, and we're going to kind of do the same thing. So we're going to say if comments toggle, and then you put a dot because you want the value. If it's equal to true, then we want the property visible to be true. We want it to show. And if it's not true, false. So it's sort of like a if else. If you turn on the water spigot, the water comes out, right? If you turn it off, it stops. And this is sort of the same concept. So I hope that made sense. So let's preview this again. See how that works? Okay. You can also, if this needs to be required, if this is selected and this needs to be required, let's look at another property. So let's select this and let's go to another property called required, right here, required. Right now it says it's false. So all we need to do is turn that to true. So it's not letting me turn it to true, and I think it's because it's locked. So I'm gonna come to this advanced, and I'm going to click unlock to change properties. Click. So now it's unlocked. So now I can change the property. So I come here and I'm going to say true, meaning that this needs to be required. And if you notice, that star appeared there. Let me show you that again. So false. See, it disappeared. So now I'm going to say true, and then the star appears. Okay. Let's preview that. See, title is required. This is required. If you try to submit this form, it won't submit. So let's go and test it out. Now that we're done with our form. Now we need to save. So you can just leave a note here, customized. You click on save it, and then you can publish to SharePoint to make it visible. So let's publish. Okay, so now at the top there's this link that'll take you back to your list. So let's click on that, and it takes me back. So let's click on this new form. When you click on it at first, it's not going to show. That's because it's cached. So let's cancel and let's just refresh the page. Click on new, and there is my Power Apps. If I click on this selection, see how it appears? That appears as well. If I fill this out, let's say I skipped this. Remember, we made this required, and let's say I skipped it, put in my comments here. And if I tried to save, you see it says sales status is required. So let's go in active. See, and there you have it. Now, what if I wanted this form to be a little bit wider? You know, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but when you create Power Apps, it's not only is it for the browser, but it's also for your mobile app as well. If you had a mobile phone, you can also view it in a mobile phone. You just have to download the Power Apps app from the Play Store. So let's go back to our customizing our form to see how to make that change. So let's customize. I could have just gone back here. Okay, so now let me leave that page. So now we're back here. So now what I want to do is, in order to make this wider, we come over here to File, and then we're going to go to our settings and display. And as you can see, it's showing us that this is portrait, and we can change it to landscape. So if we change it to landscape, you see it made it wider. So let's go back to our form and see. As you can see, it's wider now. We do have to adjust this, span the whole form. So now it is wider. See, look at that. Let me talk about a few other things. Now, this is a comment, so I want to make this a bigger box. So if you click on that element, now when you first click on it, it picks the card. So you need to click on it again, double click as it says, you go there. So now let's go to the properties. We're going to scroll down to this mode. See, it says mode, and this is the, when I clicked on it, it showed me the property in the function as well. What I want to do is change this from single line to multi-line. So let's change. And now when I change that to multi-line, what I can do now is increase the size. You can do that here. So if I said 50, let's say 150. Okay. So that's that's a little bit big now. So that's awesome. Another thing we want to do is another thing that you can do with your SharePoint form is you can control the columns. So sometimes you may have a lot of fields, so you can break it up. If you come here, you can break it up into columns. So those are the columns. So it all depends on your requirements. I'm going to put it back to 1. You can also control the layout. So the layout is either is in vertical right now, or horizontal. And in horizontal, the labels are put to the side of the element. So let's put it back. Let me come back to my SharePoint form, and let's put it back to vertical. Let's put it to 2 so we can see. So that's the form. Let's go ahead and add an image. Let's just add an image. So right here on the left hand side, right now we are in the tree view. If I come down here, you can insert different elements to your form, just like we did up here. So these also exist here as well. So let's say I come down here and I want to click. Let's say I want to add an icon. So not necessarily that icon. Let's come here again. I am missing. Okay. I was actually looking for this icons here. So icons. I thought it would give me a list here as well. So these are all the different icons that you can add to your form. So let's say sales form. I want to add money and put money here. And this is hideous, but I'm just doing this just to show a point. You can also add your own. You can control, if you click on this, the icons also have elements as well. So you can see we're using the money icon, and you can if you needed to change it to something else, you can change it. You can also add your own images. So if you come down here to this media, you can upload an image and then add your own image. So now we have this data here. This is where we add our different data sources. So here, as you can see, our data source is SharePoint sales. That's the name of the list. So this is our connection, and this is what is being fed into this Power Apps. You can also add other data connections. We have the current environment. You have like a database called Dataverse for the Power Apps. You also have other connections that you can use as well. So tons of different connections that you can use. So let's save this again. Save. And then publish. If I click on see all versions, you see the versions of SharePoint. Okay, something's wrong. I'm not going to deal with that right now. Okay, so let's go back. Let me, okay, good. So it's published. So now let's go to our list. So I'm going to go back to SharePoint. Let's refresh. And if I click on new, so as you can see, our form is wider now. But it didn't. Let's go back to my Power Apps and see what's going on. Leave. Let's go back to Power Apps because I did put it in 2 columns. So let's go back and see what happened. All right. So, okay. Maybe it didn't publish the first time. So let's publish this again. So let's see if we can publish it. Let me just make this bold. Bold. I think it was 35. I made it. Okay. Might as well do the same thing to all the other ones. 25. 25. Okay. Let me come back here. Let me save it. Save. And let's publish to SharePoint. Publish. And let's go to SharePoint. And let's see what's going on. So if I click on new, there it is. So there's that. Here's our comment. So this is just an example. Of course, I'm sure you all can create prettier forms than this. Save. But that is the power of Power Apps. It allows you to kind of customize your list form. You can turn business manual processes into business processes. So this is the power. You can create more complicated forms than, more complex forms than what I've done here. But when you get to doing that, it would probably be a better idea to create a Canvas app, but that's in future videos. But we're gonna talk a lot about customized apps in the next few weeks and working on different types of functionality that you can do. So sorry that this video went a little bit long, but I hope that made sense. And thanks for watching. Bye.